Mixed team and break straight off the bat. Great way for them to start the game. The mixed team from Taipei. This is Liam Grant, joined by guest commentator Elliot Trotter. How are you getting on, Elliot?
Hey, I'm good. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so we have two Asian teams going head-to-head here. You spent a little time traveling around Asia, have you not?
I have, and you know, the last time I saw Chinese Taipei was at the Asian Oceanic Beach Championships. Asian Oceanic Championships. That was in Hong Kong. We saw the men's team. I was playing with the Philippines team at the time, and they were very competitive. So I'm expecting that they'll bring the same kind of competitiveness. I know their player coach, Will Chen, very well. We just competed at U.S. Beach Nationals together, and he has been flying out and coaching at practices, spending a lot of time and effort to lead this team.
Good to know. So yeah, so that was a break off the bat for them. Now we see the Japanese full Natto stretching deep. Oh, and a great layout attempt, but not reeled in. So now a chance for Taipei to break again.
I'm curious if that was a pull play. They were looking for that deep shot right away. Obviously, that was a speedy offensive cutter, very close to the disc.
Now it's Tan picking up the disc for Taipei. Full field to go. Trying to isolate the player in the front of the stack, but can't get it free. Now it's the inside break to leading pass. There the hook comes. Speedy Japanese defender. Both players end up in the sand, losing their footing. How's the sand to run on, Elliot?
You know, it varies a little bit field to field. Some are a little bit deeper than others, but we'll see. Like, things could change if the weather changes a little bit. Some raindrops come down to make the sand a little bit heavier. It's also very different from Royan in some ways, from 2017 at World Beach.
Chiba with the high release backhand, using that break side effectively. Full Natto. Soboy with the disc. His wife, I believe, is also on the roster, but not here now, looking after a kid. Oh, and almost a deja vu. Another layout attempt in the end zone. Can't gather that one in.
Yeah, Osaka is getting open, but it feels like they're just rushing on that last bit towards the end zone. I think if you wait a second, take a breath, you'll be able to put that into open space.
And this can happen sometimes when it's your first game on the live stream. You can get a little huck happy, blood is flowing, and maybe overshoot those hucks a small bit. Both players going for the disc, but it ends up on the ground, and a quick pickup and goal for Osaka. They tied the game at ones.
I think that's great when you do get a block like that. Sometimes, if you see some open receivers, is just go for it. But you know, you'll see some teams that are going to attack with that quick space when they get a quick turn like that in the end zone. And if you're picking it up without seeing a receiver like they had just there, then you might be in some trouble. But they had a wide open receiver, easy throw to the goal.
Yeah, I think that quick transition defense to offense is very effective in Beach Ultimate. A lot of people get more tired on sand quicker than they do on grass. So you can sometimes cash out the defense like they did there. So yeah, Osaka full Natto. Come from the city of Osaka, not too far away. Biggest major city, closest to Shirahama. Did you get to spend some time in Osaka?
You know, not on this trip. The last time I spent a little bit of time in Osaka was in 2012 at the World Ultimate and Guts Championships out in Sakai, which is also nearby Osaka. And ended up spending a couple days in Osaka. It was a nice city. There's a beautiful park sort of in the middle of the business district. Yeah, I enjoyed myself there.
So that pull will be bricked, so it'll be coming up 15 meters, 1/3 of the central area. Big advantage for the offense. And a zone defense here from Osaka. Osaka full Natto, the name actually meaning fermented soy, an old traditional Japanese food. Good pressure on the mark, but Taipei retain possession as they look to try and give go through this Japanese zone. Kind of a 1-3-1. And good pressure on the mark, but now stretching the field.
I think Taipei just needs to stay patient. The zone wants them to move fast, and they're moving a little bit quickly. and that resulted in almost a turn.
A great goal. That was an interesting mac to himself almost over the player. They'll celebrate that one nonetheless.
Yeah, that Japanese zone looked like it was designed to force a lot of quick movements. And I think what Chinese Taipei didn't quite realize was that they were open even without making a strike cut. They could just break the mark and find some open receivers if they're just planted with a little bit of space. But they found their way to the end zone and, forced the Japanese zone to continue to adjust. Japan still got a block there, but Chinese Taipei came down with it.
Yeah, a little bit lucky that one, but they all count. So Taipei with the early lead.
Yeah, the last time I was in Japan was for the World Ultimate Guts Championships in Sakai, and something I remember, I was just covering it for Sky Magazine at the time, but it was such a well-run tournament. There's a lot of great tournaments in the US and in Europe as well, but that tournament in particular just stood out for me as just everything was solidly run, everyone was being taken care of. So I came to expect that from this one, and JFDA has not let me down at all. Extremely well run.
Yeah.
And there's an extremely great block.
Yeah, Taipei with a chance now. They extend their lead to 2. Nice swing pass, taking the easy options here.
I like this vert stack look from Taipei. They're very well organized and they're timing their cuts. From patiently standing still at the front of the stack, you can just move your weight around and get open. Oh. That had a little bit too much pace, I think, for the receiver to find it.
Fukushima. Tutsboy. And Suboi up the line. Nice give-go action.
Yeah, what I'm seeing so far is Chinese Taipei especially is setting up an excellent offensive structure. And if they can be patient like they were in an earlier point, they'll be able to move the disc effectively and find some open receivers without doing too much work. It seems when both teams are trying to go a little bit too fast, that's when things are happening. And you're seeing some great defensive bids that are putting pressure on, but that pressure is designed to force these teams to move quickly, and unfortunately, that's making it a little bit more challenging than it needs to be.
Yeah, so Taipei back on offense now, still holding their break that they earned in the first point of this game.
I'm really excited to see what this offensive set is going to be like, if we're going to see that same vertical stack. And it's interesting that they're looking for cuts from the front of the stack to start. I wonder if we'll see that again.
And we're using WFDF ratio rule A in this mixed division here, so it's an ABBA system. At this point in the game, every 2 points, they'll be switching genders from 3 men to 3 women and vice versa.
So Japan throws another zone there, and it will behoove Chinese Taipei to just find the open spaces. And they're out of the zone very quickly.
Yeah, always fun to watch the Japanese defenses. A little bit different usually than to the rest of the world. They like to mix it up with different kinds of zones. We saw a lot of half-court defense in the last game. Again, just trying to make Taipei throw a lot of throws, keep them contained. The more you throw, the more likely you are to turn over in some ways. Not too windy today, though. Very perfect ultimate conditions. Not too hot, not too cold. A slight thrower's wind going from kind of out towards the sea at this point of the day.
Will Chen and his cutters are really doing some work here. Will's getting those resets and really dictating down the field. And his cutters continue to get open for him.
Yeah, Chen, a vital part of this offense. Good leading breakthrough there to open up the field. Chen looking towards the end zone, eventually gets the shot. Great pressure from Osaka, but Chinese Taipei holds strong and get another point on the board.
I think one of the big keys for them on offense, besides having a really solid handler in Will Chen able to get open is they were very patient with the disc. They were making their strike cuts under, they were getting open, advancing the disc upfield, but they weren't getting too aggressive. They were waiting for those next open cuts, whether that was a dump or downfield. They weren't trying to force anything. And honestly, that last shot, I think, went off how it should have gone. It maybe was a little bit low, and the receiver had enough time to make the adjustment and pick it up in the end zone.
So 3-2 to Chinese Taipei, which I believe is Taiwan, when many people know it as.
That's correct.
So I guess kind of one of the regions represented here. There's 10 nations and regions in total. I'm going to try to list them off of this Asian Oceanic Beach Ultimate Championships. You have Australia, who you were playing for, Elliot.
That's right.
You have Guam, India, Japan, New Zealand, China, Chinese Taipei, Singapore, Philippines. I believe that is the nations. I don't know if I missed anyone out there.
I think Korea as well.
Oh, Korea, yes. South Korea in attendance. 2 club teams here in the mixed division.
I would just want to shout out to the program from India. It's amazing to see how they have continued to evolve and grow on the beach scene. And as Osaka scores another goal, they've just been putting together a fantastic program. Their athletes have continued to excel on the beach and on the grass, and it's awesome to see.
Takaya Tsuboi with his second goal of the game. As I mentioned earlier, Mai Tsuboi, his partner, I believe is not here right now, looking after their kid. Maybe she'll make it for the weekend. I know a lot of Japanese teams are bolstering up their rosters come tomorrow. People would work during the week.
Is that how they're doing? They're just waiting. Okay.
Yeah,
interesting. We got to look out for that.
Yeah, we covered a team earlier, the Veggie Griffins from Japan women's team. They had 8 players at one stage today, and by the time tomorrow, they're going to have, I think, 17 on the roster.
Clever. So very good.
And kind of forgiving schedule, you know. I think Saturday and Sunday are the real days where results matter. You can have a bad day 1 and day 2 and still end up winning the tournament.
That would be lovely. I think that's not quite how it'll work for the Australian men's pool, whereas if you come in 6th in our pool, you're eliminated from bracket play. But for a lot of the teams, the schedule is pretty forgiving.
Again, we see this 1-3-1 defense from Osaka. A lot of space around the handlers and deep, but not much in the middle of the field. Faking the hammer there. A nice lefty to the middle of the field. The throw we're seeing so much now in the sport of ultimate. Something else we've seen quite a lot is the change of shorts. You want to say something there, Elliot?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to talk about this zone a little bit, and something that I've seen a lot of Japanese zones do really well. This one's a little bit more aggressive, but notice how they're aggressive selectively. There are moments where they're striking into the lanes, and then there are moments where they're finding the space and settling. And something that has been very sophisticated about a lot of Japanese zones is knowing when to be aggressive and knowing how to lull the teams into maybe a false sense of security at times. When I was playing for Seattle Voodoo and coached by Ben Wiggins, he taught us to us, it was the infamous buzz bullet zone, and it was extremely sophisticated in the way any defender would approach attacking and resting and being patient, lulling that team into a false sense of security, and then striking like a viper.
Yeah, and it's something you definitely have to train. I think a lot of Japanese teams do it much more than Western teams. So it's not only just the style of defenses, practicing it and baiting that time and threatening at the right moments. As we see here, Osaka trying to take the lead for the first time today. Oh, and a step over the mark. Good way to get a few yards. And now the shot to the end zone. They take the lead for the first time, getting that break back. That is Kato with the goal.
That break for Osaka was just all hustle and wanting it a little bit more than Taipei did to get it back. Their structure was fairly good, and it seemed like they were setting up in a bit of a vertical stack. But at the end of the day, it just came from wanting the disc and jamming it upfield a little bit on that open side. To have that sort of effort and then come with a leading pass at the end after you've been sprinting on defense and sprinting on offense. That's very impressive stuff.
Yeah, so they got that break back. We're now on serve. Chinese Taipei will receive the disc on offense. These are games to 13 here at the Beach Ultimate Championships. If neither team gets to 13 after 45 minutes, there will be a soft cap of +1 to the high score, and you'll play to that. So quite quick games here.
To me, it's becoming something of a defense versus offense game. Chinese Taipei has a very structured offense. It's getting patient, and Osaka's defense seems to be the standout for me in the way that they are trying different looks to force Chinese Taipei to be uncomfortable.
Nice catch while laying in the sand, got his body behind it. You hear calls from the sideline for end zone. Probably practice their end zone offense quite a lot. That is Mei Chun Sai in the backfield now going up line. And now they get the tasty inside break to open up the field.
That was
nice.
Beautiful. They had a cutter from the back that seemed to be the ISO, and that cutter went open side, forcing the mark to shift a little bit, giving that inside lane an easy break. But that end zone structure was really great to see. You could see a visible shift in what the players were looking for on offense, in their movement patterns. They got a little bit more stationary in the right spot in the middle of the field, creating that vertical stack, let their handlers run the show for a second, and allowed open space to be created for an inside break throw.
Yeah, and that was Chung with the goal for Chinese Taipei. And yeah, going tit for tat here, two equally matched teams in this mixed division, by far the biggest division at the tournament. And definitely a handful of Japanese teams in this division, as we see Osaka and many others coming out with their club teams.
Liam, do you know where these two teams are standing right now in the tournament?
My Wi-Fi's down, so I'm going to see if I can get up the results, but I do not know. Hopefully in a little bit I'll be able to tell you. I'll give you the breakdown of the pools.
Sounds good. We'll get our people on that.
Osaka moving up the field. More honest defense from Taipei, just a force backhand, and they get the turn there.
Again, Osaka is churning butter out there on the sand, getting open, but it requires a lot of energy. And unfortunately, the throw just a little bit out too far.
So Will Chen now on the D-line for Taipei, looking to try and generate a break. Bouncing around on the sand in a very small area. Get free in a phone booth, that fella. Looking for a possible deep shot. Holsters this one and gets the easy under. Now a throw out to space. Oh, goes up a little too early, and that's going to be a turnover.
Oh, and a turn right back, unfortunately. Oh, just putting it out there.
And that was a spicy throw.
No, didn't think twice about that shot, and that was a beautiful, flat, crossfield hammer for the goal. A risky maneuver after seeing such a patient offense, but I think Will might just be in the zone right now. Will Chen and I competed at US Beach Nationals this past May over in Virginia Beach with Humiliswag out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And Will and I were the two folks part of the Seattle contingent, and it was a pleasure to have the opportunity to play with him. I think we've competed against each other a ton, and luckily this time around he was willing to be a part of our squad and showed up big time. We happened to be on the same line handling together, and Will is doing the same stuff he's doing out here, just getting open, throwing the right shot, and the guy knows how to win.
Yeah, I actually played with Humiliswag myself.
Oh,
yeah, it was.
Tell me about it.
It was layout maybe 20. I want to say 15. I'm not sure. 2014 actually. One of the earlier Humiliswag combinations, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of Brute Squad girls, Alana Schwam, Shira Klein, Tim, obviously.
Tim Morrill, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember where he placed, but a lot of fun, a really good team, combining that humility and swagger. I'm not even sure if there was a U.S. Beach Nationals at that stage. It's kind of...
I think the first year was 2015. So
2015.
Layout would have been in January, and then May would have been when that first season of the first tournament happened. Yeah, Tim Morrill founded that team, I think, around that time. And so, Liam, I guess you're part of the Humiliswag legacy at this point.
Yeah, I'm just going to put out there top scorer for Humiliswag at that event.
I'm not surprised.
It was actually a team of coaches at the time. So there was yoga coaches, there's coaches in the sport. I was there representing the sport of surfing as a surf coach.
Are you a surf coach?
Yeah, I worked for 10 years coaching surfing. I used to run a surf school. Definitely at the time I was heavily involved with surfing. Do a little bit now. Definitely last week I was doing some surf lessons.
Okay.
Actually my #1 sport.
I'm gonna have to call you up for some lessons at some point.
Yeah,
I got some lessons from Seb Barr from the Heads of State over in Australia a few years back. But so I got up on the board once. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we might see some waves on the beach here tomorrow as it could be a storm coming in.
A little bit of rain coming down. That's a money leading pass if it stays in.
And a great goal. Milked like a baby cow all the way into the end zone. A lot of touch on that disc. Beautiful flight path, giving the receiver a lot of time to run it down.
Osaka is continuing to take these, challenging leading shots. And look, it's working out for them. They are putting a ton of energy out on the field and working extremely hard and still able to put these masterful shots out there on hucks or even short passes. That doesn't work for every team, and we'll see what happens later in this game. We're all tied up at 5-5, so I don't know if they're going to keep trying that and if it's going to keep working. If it does, that's very impressive. But on this beach, leading passes can be very challenging, especially when the wind picks up. It's not too heavy right now.
I tell you what, as a commentator, I love seeing play like that. It's definitely fun to take those kind of creative throws. Difficult to execute, but that one was on the money for sure.
Yeah. I think something we talk a lot about on our Australian team, and you've seen throughout history, Dog from Boston historically played a very boring game of Ultimate. They weren't necessarily a big hucking team, although I can't speak from having seen them play myself, but that's sort of what gets passed down. Revolver as well, another dynasty. Both those teams have won many, many championships in the men's division, and historically they're known for being very boring, dump swingy type teams. Of course, they can do more than that too, but that seemed to be a key to success for them in the years that they were competing at that level.
I've actually seen you play, Elliot, and I definitely describe it as boring, and I mean that in the nicest way possible.
I try to be as boring as I can be. It's outside Ultimate that I try to live a more interesting life.
Definitely that. You can tell us a little bit about your Globetrotter experiences maybe after this point as we see Chinese Taipei. Again, being patient through this zone. Osaka putting a bit of pressure on when it gets high in the stall count. Very active on the mark. But again, spreading it wide, making the Japanese players run hard.
I'd like to see them bounce it right off that line a little bit sooner, take the whole field, make the zone move. The zone is playing very conservative. Oh, that was a beautiful shot. Unfortunately, came up with a little bit of speed.
Yeah, that was a tasty inside break, and now look, they jack it straight away. This is going to be a fun matchup, hanging in the air, getting a great read on it. It's the Japanese player, Kato. We got that break goal for them earlier. Gets the reset off. Osaka a little bit tired after that zone play, but It is another break goal for Kato. They take the lead.
Osaka's throwing skill is really standing out for me in this wind, and they're not afraid to put out these tricky shots. Look, the offensive receiver made an adjustment and bodied out to receive the disc there, but they're working hard and they're coming down with some great throws and some great catches.
Yeah, the Japanese bringing their hucking game, which they're famous for on grass, kind of to sand. And sometimes if you're playing that hucking game as a receiver, you're looking for it earlier, adjusting earlier. If you're constantly chasing down those floaty hucks, you become better at it. So that was a 50-50 disc, but it was just a great read from Kato and positioning that won him the disc. Didn't even have to sky for it.
If I'm Chinese Taipei right now, I'm actually going to be pretty positive. I think it's still an extremely close game. They just got a break back, so I think we might be on serve now. But Osaka's having to do a lot and put up some beautiful throws in order to score. They're working very hard. They're putting a lot of energy and trying these really challenging throws. So, you know, if I'm playing and I'm playing with Taipei right now, I'm thinking, all right, you know what? Stick with our system. Keep challenging and forcing them to make these tricky throws. Maybe we can put a little bit more pressure on some of these insides or jump into the lane a little bit. But let's see if they can do it all game. And if they can, all right, that's tough to do.
So this is a big game for these two teams. Chinese Taipei going 0-3 yesterday. Mixed teams having 3 games yesterday. So this would be very important for them to get a win on the board. Osaka getting 1 win yesterday, I believe, over Noma, another Japanese team. Well, this disc is in the air, but good read to reel that one in. Huang. Good reset to get it off the line. Taipei looking a little stagnant downfield. But that has been their breakthrough of choice all this time, those inside flicks to open up the field when they get into a little bit of trouble. Now 4 people downfield. Oh, a high backhand flick into the end zone. That was unusual, but worked out quite well.
That was a great touch shot, and tricky in this wind. The wind has been sending those blades right down to the sand, but that had enough rotation on it in the right angle to get to the receiver there. For the most part, Taipei was extremely patient there, and I really liked how they were looking back to their handlers to make some moves with their legs and get open. They were trusting their throws out into space for those handlers, continued to get the resets they needed, and that nice sneaky blade to the break side was the cherry on top of that offense. You know, I think the thrower had enough trust in their throw there and saw that the receiver was open enough to make that choice. So all the power to them. So I'm really interested now to see what Chinese Taipei throws on defense. We'll see if it's a different look. Will Chen, who's been playing quite well, back out there on the line.
Yeah, one of few people, one or two born in the US on this team, Chester Reese Flom as well. Quite an international city or region, Taiwan, so a good ultimate community, always well represented at WFDF World events. But they forgot the flag. That's what I heard. So we have 9 flags, I believe, on display, and
oh no,
I think it was Chinese Taipei forgot their flag.
So playing person D, there's a beautiful floaty pass. Holsters that shot this time.
Now
that's a great leading hammer.
Yeah, creative throw, not one you see very often in the kind of handler space, leading hammer, but they are a team of creative throwers, and it's providing a very entertaining game. Just throws in the space. That was a trust throw. Made eye contact with his receiver and put it out into the space they both knew it was going to go.
I mean, as a defender in that position, you're guarding the back of the stack. Maybe you want to orient yourself so you're seeing what's going on downfield, but I mean, he was really just glancing for a second at his player. you don't usually get caught up for face guarding when you're guarding the back of the stack in an end zone. So, the defender was in the right position there, and offense just made a bold choice, and it worked out for them.
Yeah, as a defender, that's a space you're not really trying to take away that much. It's a very tight window to throw into, throw it around you and hope you don't see it as it comes out. But yeah, just you see when you have a club team against a national team, you'll have that kind of a connection with your club players that you play with every week. You have that bond, and it was clear from that throw. Well, Chinese Taipei, I know they've been doing a lot of work in training, but probably not the same level of connection.
Yeah, it's very interesting. This tournament in its first incarnation has opened up to some club teams, and a lot of club teams from Japan came out to compete, and it's kind of fun to see. It's got a very fun and somewhat informal but also serious vibe at times with the national teams competing. So I think it's great for the sport to give a lot of local Japanese teams the opportunity to compete with some of these practice national teams.
Yeah, and also a lot of them are very good, very big ultimate community in Japan. I think 128 million is the population. Tokyo, the biggest city on the planet in terms of population, 32 million, I think, in the municipal city. So plenty of top teams to bring down here, and I love playing against Japanese teams. Definitely someone from Europe, someone from US yourself, you're probably delighted to play against a variety of Japanese teams.
Absolutely, and it's so fun to see the different styles that come out from not just Japanese teams, but teams all over the world tend to have something specific that has grown in their culture, an approach to the game, and sometimes those approaches are really visionary and can be adapted and used at championship levels. We've seen a lot of success on both the men's and women's side from Japan at the international level, playing a very unique style. And on the beach, there's no team that you can't go without mentioning a team like the Philippines, bringing such a serious and energy-filled approach to beach ultimate. It's part of their blood. They're playing all the time, training in Boracay, and that's a team you always look out for on the beach.
Yeah, agreed. Fun to watch. We had 3 Filipino teams this morning on the live stream, so we had all the Filipinos at home tuning in to watch that. It was a lot of fun. The energy and sideline presence they bring is fantastic. Definitely the queens and kings of beach ultimate.
Yeah, if I'm instructing someone with a camera to go take some sweet photos of ultimate, I'll send them to the Philippines teams because they come down with some amazing bids and amazing grabs, and they never disappoint.
Yeah, getting a light drizzle of rain now. Almost kind of refreshing in this humidity and heat here in Japan.
Almost refreshing.
So this whole entire game, not more than 1 point separating these two teams.
What's going to break, I think, is the question. Is Osaka's defense going to be able to frustrate Chinese Taipei enough? Chinese Taipei on defense continues to play person defense, and they're forcing Osaka to work, and Osaka is continuing to put some leading passes out there. Miscommunication there, unfortunately, from Chinese Taipei, and an easy goal for Osaka.
Yeah, not what you want coming out of a timeout. First pass, throwaway, and that allowed that Japanese team to set up their zone defense. And looking at all the players, they have such great body position. They're trying to see the player and the disc as much as they can. They're on their toes, glancing over the shoulders the whole time, head swiveling around. It's fantastic. I think the best zone ultimate is in Japan and demonstrated just there.
Yeah, again, Osaka is using an excellent tactic of putting that effort on defense to force Chinese Taipei to think twice. And that sort of frenetic, that's a great word, frenetic defense, their goal is to make Chinese Taipei move and second guess and have to keep using their legs. And the key for Chinese Taipei is to continue to stay patient. Use those fakes to force the Osaka defenders into different positions. That's going to open up some lanes for you to throw some easy passes. So I think the way that Chinese Taipei responds here is a very patient, calm offense and an easy score. This could be a big point for Osaka's defense if they're able to convert.
Chung and Chen in the backfield handling for Taipei. And again, this zone from Osaka, which has stifled them a small bit. Chen plays through the contact, no bother. That classic pop, don't pass on the sand, very effective. There he gets an extra yard or two. Jumping through the disc. And a lot of players in a small space right now.
It seems like they're trying to keep it in the middle of the field. Those strike cuts through the zone is at least forcing the zone to adjust, which gives some other options. I'd like to see them continue to use the width of the field in addition to these strikes up the middle.
Yeah, I think 1 or 2 swings will then open up the space for those strike cuts and also just tire out the zone. And that's not something you'll see too much in grass, where often you can hang and run around for a full point of a few minutes. But if you're in the front of a zone on sand, you get tired quickly.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the strategy is with trying to be close, but there's an open shot. Beautiful throw. Beautiful spot for the receiver.
Oh, and good pressure on the mark, but Chen gets open on the dump.
The challenge for any team is to remain patient in the red zone.
Inside
Taipei
option.
has worked so hard to get here.
Yeah, Osaka doing so well to kind of slow them down, tire them out, try and bait them into an over-the-top throw.
A zone like Osaka's is right now is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's a very conservative zone. Some strikes every once in a while, and it looks like they're starting to play person defense on the dump.
And they get their turn. Looked like Taipei just broken through, but maybe rushing that last pass. Probably a little tired as well.
Not a bad look to the end zone there, but unfortunately the receiver just wasn't quite in stride yet. And a turnover from Taipei. A zone like Osaka's there is designed to do exactly what it did. Sometimes you might allow the team to move upfield a fair amount, but they're going to have to work pretty hard to do it. And a turn in the end zone is just as good as a turn at your end zone for a zone like that. As long as you get a turn.
Get those turns, yeah. And I think this is a great timeout call from Osaka. They're in a difficult position, but they must have been gassed after that zone performance, eventually getting the turn. So allow themselves to settle a little bit, take a breather. I'm sure they were tired. I was almost tired looking at them.
Yeah, that's a very smart call in this situation. A break here could seal the game for them, put them up 2 breaks, and that's going to be challenging for Taipei to come back from.
Yeah, 37 minutes gone on the clock, so 8 remaining. Good time for timeout as well. This is the first time they've had a 2-point lead, so maybe running the clock down a little bit as well. You only 1 timeout per game, so use it wisely. And tell us a little about your Globetrotter experiences.
Sure. Which one do you want to know about?
Is there any coming up in the near future?
We'll see. There have been some discussions with some local teams out here in Japan, and maybe there's one more in the pocket. We'll see. It's always a great privilege to be able to join these international teams and be welcomed into their family. You know, I'm sure they don't like me telling them what to do sometimes, but I try to be as humble as possible and really learn as much as I can, not just from the experience on the field, but just from the experience of understanding what it's like to live in these different countries and be an ultimate player in these different countries. It's a really special privilege that I try not to take for granted.
And Osaka setting up here in this kind of 4-person vertical stack, classic offset. Everyone in the vert stack, Japanese offense.
Such touch on these leading throws. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, play like a true Japanese team. Osaka now being forced backhand, looking downfield. Dangerous pass, and it's a turnover. So we've had 2 timeouts in this game, and both teams have turned over after their timeout.
At least they're getting a little bit of a rest, but that was excellent. An excellent mark, an excellent tight defense from Taipei. It was pretty clear that in the huddle, they talked about working hard and staying close to who they were guarding, and that really paid off, forced a tough decision. The breeze just picked up as that throw went off and made that catch a little bit more difficult, unfortunately. Another turnover from Chinese Taipei.
You can see an adjustment here from Taipei, actually forcing backhand at this stage of the game. They kind of started off their flick. I think they recognize Osaka have very, very good inside flicks upfield, so maybe trying to take that away with his forced backhand. Uncontested foul on the mark. It's Kato against Chen, 2 standout performers in this game. To Matsumoto.
The defense is working hard, trying to close down who they're guarding and force up a great touch throw.
Oh, and a fantastic catch. They extend their lead 9-6. That was a hopeful throw, but a fantastic read. Osaka flood the pitch, deservedly so. Great point for them.
You know, Taiwan honestly did their job there. They forced a floaty throw up into space. It was a last-ditch effort from Osaka. They were playing excellent person defense, really shutting down the options, cutting towards the disc. The only option that seemed to be left was a floaty put out into space. It had enough touch to hang and be read by the receiver. Honestly, that's just sort of a bit of bad luck for Taiwan there.
Yeah, Maki Hashimoto with her first goal for Osaka, and that could be the most important one of the game. The score is now 9-6. Roughly 4 minutes remaining in the game. Once time cap goes, it'll be +1 to the highest score.
It's great to see that sort of effort from Chinese Taipei to play that type of rough and tumble person defense. Unfortunately, we didn't see that from the entire game. There are moments leading up to this, but it was really more of their offense versus Osaka's defense, and their defense didn't get enough of a voice in this game. If they can play that way from the start of a game, they're going to see a lot more success.
And here we see that zone. Good movement from Taipei in the backfield at the time, but nobody on this near sideline. Now a player comes across. Need to get those swings over and try and move it. I think a double team being called there, and rightly so. That is a marking infraction, so does not stop play, and Osaka get the disc again.
It's tricky when you're on the sideline there being forced back to the sideline in a zone. Sometimes the best look ends up being backwards behind you for a dump swing.
And a great goal, Yoshimitsu to Chiba. Did you ever play Tekken back in the day? There was a Yoshimitsu in that.
I don't think I did play too much Tekken. I was more of a Altered Beast on the Sega Genesis was a great game, and I loved the WCW wrestling games when I was a kid. I was a big fan of those. And of course, Super Smash Bros. Melee.
A classic, a classic. And in fairness, the country of Japan has brought us so many great video games in the past, present, and future, no doubt. Any other favorites?
You know, I was a PC gamer for some time. I've since retired from gaming.
Did you ever have a Game Boy?
I did have a Game Boy.
Did you ever? I thought, you know, I wouldn't be the biggest Pokemon fan, but I think Pokemon Red and Blue back in the day were...
Okay. I didn't play that one, but it's amazing to me to see the spread of Pokemon Go as long as we're talking about it, and people continuing to play that much after its release. I see parties of adults in Seattle walking through the streets trying to catch some Pokemon. It's become a international phenomenon.
Yeah, a great game, much like this one.
It's been a very interesting game and a very tactics-focused game. I think the strategy of Osaka slowing down and disrupting the very structured offense of Chinese Taipei played out very well. It forced them to do some things that they perhaps were not ready to do, work a little bit harder than their offense has previously had to. And look, things have been going the way of Osaka on their offense as well. Their offensive defense has been putting some beautiful passes out there.
Well guided in by Taipei. Need to get some points on the board. I think that is the game clock whistle going now. So we +1 to high score. So I think it'll be game to 11 or 12, depending who scores this next point. Taipei, definitely the team that need it more. Yeah, I think this is very much a game of tactics. I think it's one of the beauties of our sport of Ultimate. You know, on offense, you can work as many strategies, set plays, but when you get a defense like this, that goes all out the window, and you have to play what's given to you.
I think we're still seeing the emergence of teams with beach strategies, beach-specific strategies. A lot more, many nations are becoming more serious about how they approach the beach and bringing beach-specific approaches to the game.
That was Sheng Yu Li with the goal. So score now 10-7 is game to 11.
I think what comes next is the Professional Beach Ultimate League. So there's so many professional leagues sprouting up here and there. I don't quite understand, you know, I'll take that back. I do understand what the drive is towards this concept of professionalism. It gives a sense of legitimacy to what you're doing, and of course, being able to finance athletes to compete is very important to athletes who maybe don't have those opportunities, just aren't in the financial stance to be able to compete in this sport and travel. It becomes a very expensive sport. So I appreciate that about professional leagues. At the same time, for me, this sort of Ultimate's as good as it gets. I love the approach of club and national organizations.
Oh, and almost a game-winning score. Yeah, touching on that subject, I like this pure form of Ultimate Amateur. Pure. I know in Ireland our biggest sports are Gaelic football and hurling, and they're kept amateur on purpose. I go to plenty of 80,000-seater stadiums and watch top-level players play, but all of them have jobs. Now, a lot of their expenses are paid for, and there's a good ground work community that's funded for. But it doesn't have to be. You can still have high-level play and legitimate sport without it being professional in a certain extent. But it is Osaka who win this game.
That's
fantastic play.
Break.
Yeah, great breakthrow to win it. And that was Tsuboi, who has been phenomenal all game long. Just stretching away at the last part of the game, the last third. Good performance from Taipei. They did their nation proud, but unfortunately no wins just yet in the tournament.
Yeah, Osaka, I think the story of this game is Osaka played a sophisticated zone, which really challenged Taipei to do something different. We saw some early looks from their offense, and it looked extremely structured and patient in that vertical stack, but when they were forced to look away from their initial structures and approach a more zoney offense, that forced them to work hard, and they just unfortunately turned the disc over in some key points. And Osaka, again, they were able to put some brilliance out there on these leading passes. Obviously, a ton of effort as well from both teams, but Osaka's strategy of forcing Chinese Taipei to give a different look, I think was the secret to being successful here.
So thanks very much for listening, folks. We're going to have our first break of the day. Just did 4 games in a row, so happy to take a little break. But we'll be back shortly at 2:20, where we'll have Japan's nomadic tribe taking on Guam in the men's division. So stay tuned for that. Thanks very much for listening. I've been Liam Grant alongside Elliot Trotter. Best of luck in the rest of your games, Elliot.
Thanks so much, Liam. It was a pleasure.
All right, we'll see you guys later.